Back with closing trades, and we're coming to you live from the SBI Live studios. The Adani Airport CEO saying that the first commercial flight will be operational from the Navi Mumbai airport in December. That's later this year. And of course, the official launch is slated for October 8th this week itself. But that said, the markets as well are on takeoff mode. It's new age, it's technology, financials. They are the ones which are chugging along quite nicely and pretty much the same composition. In fact, if nothing, TCS has picked up even further. It's now staring at an almost 3% of a move on the futures. There's, of course, TechM, which is also looking very smart. Apollo Hospitals, Max Healthcare continue to be names which also are looking good. But let me welcome on board Richard Jain as well from Motilal Oswal Financial Services, joining in to talk about what he's making of the market right now. Richard, hi, afternoon. Lots to trade and a lot of buoyancy finally in the market. What's looking like a good trade? Anything sectorally?
Yes, hi, very good afternoon. Well, I think today we can clearly see that it's more of a sector-specific momentum which is going on. So two space where we think that in the short term we could expect some good positive returns. One is the NBFC space, where the entire banking and the Nifty Financial Services Index has witnessed a good momentum since last 3-4 days. And there has been good rise in volumes in certain stocks. So NBFC would be one space where one can look for buying opportunities. Canfin Homes we like within this entire space, but there has been a good consolidation over past couple of months, and the stock has given a breakout from this consolidation with good volumes over last 2 trading sessions. So Canfin Homes can be bought at current levels with stop loss below 770 for potential targets around 830 in the near term. And OMCs is another segment where overall structure seems positive. You can see both HPCL as well as IOC trading around their recent swing highs, and the volumes have also increased gradually. So I think one is NBFC, second is OMCs. A relative outperformance could be expected in these two segments.
The other segment, Richard, which seems to be showing plenty of zing is the healthcare space. Some of these names doing really well. Fortis is one of those. Any names which are looking good to you on charts as of today?
A couple of names within the segment. If one is looking more from a positional perspective, Apollo Hospitals is one stock which overall structure seems quite strong. A high top, high bottom structure has been there. Whenever we have seen any kind of corrections in the stock, there is no volume based selling, and the stock always rebounds from its support. So Apollo Hospitals we like at current levels. Fortis has done a good bit of run up over last few sessions, and if we get any kind of dips, then buy and dip strategy could be kept in Fortis Healthcare as well. Apart from this, one more name, Aster DM. This is one stock which is showing a good relative outperformance within the sector. The stock is trading around its high, so I think here also price-wise downside seems limited. So if at current level one has to take any fresh long positions within the sector, then would prefer Aster DM and Apollo Hospitals, whereas Fortis can be kept on radar and one can keep a buy and dip strategy in that.
Right. In fact, since we're talking about the entire healthcare space, in a first major revamp since 2014, the Health Ministry has announced revised rates for nearly 2,000 medical procedures under the Central Government Health Services Scheme, which come into effect from October 13. Shrishti is here to tell us more about that.
Well, indeed, the hospital counters will be in focus after that big rate revision under the CGHS scheme that is good for the central government employees, because do remember that there were some complaints that the hospitals were actually refusing to go ahead with the cashless treatments. Yes, of course, the treatments were given, but the employees or the pensioners were actually facing some difficulties, and in order to cater to that, it's a big revision in the rates that the government has announced, wherein almost 2,000 medical procedures rates have been revised this time around, and that's indeed the biggest in almost a decade now. The new rates will be effective from October 13th, and interesting to note that this time the rates will now vary between the city category and the hospital quality as well. In terms of the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, they will be charged at a 19 to 20% lower versus the base rate. There's a bifurcation between the non-NABH hospitals and the super specialty specialty hospitals as well, which will actually charge almost a 15% higher rates versus the other ones, and non-NABH hospitals will actually charge 15% lower rates. Now, that's the bifurcation that is given for the very first time, and that is interesting to note. But in terms of the stock reactions as well, majorly all the counters will be in focus within the hospital space, but the biggest of all could actually be Yatharth Hospitals, because that company drives almost 35% revenue from all the government schemes, because they have been on a path to reduce their contribution from the government health. It was almost 40%, but now in the latest Q1 of FY26, it's a 35% revenue contribution from the government schemes. But along with that, in some of the other bigger hospitals from the likes of Max, Narayana Healthcare, Fortis, they also drive almost 15% revenue contribution from the various government health schemes, and that will of course lead into better revenue as well as the EBITDA profile as well, because if we just take an example of almost a 10% revenue contribution coming in from government and 20% EBITDA margin, that will translate into higher EBITDA as well as revenue. So definitely a positive news flow for the hospital counters.
It is not the optimal thing what the hospitals are expecting, but it is better than nothing. So at least there is a 15 to 20% of the existing price has been revised upwards. That will give little more confident and viable when compared to the previous things. But still, this is not the one where we can able to make any positive impact on our balance sheet. At least if we can able to increase another on the price what they have increased more than 20-25%, that will be more comfortable. We can able to meet the expenditure what we incurred during these patients, and we also able to work with the volume that we get without any issues.
Okay, let's switch to Sunil. Sunil, your quick take with regard to this move, and any names in particular that you like within this segment sector?
So first of all, I think it's a very good move because it's been long delayed, over 15 years. The second aspect is that I think that the increases have been pretty significant. Though I heard the one of the hospital MDs talk that is not as expected, but I think I saw somewhere it's between 2 to 30% increases in some procedures. Second is there is a significant population block. It's about more than 4 million government salaried plus pensioners are there who take part of the CGHS scheme. So to the hospitals, where the benefit comes, I'll tell you, is that either they were refusing or they were taking it on, but these were loss-making propositions. So what happens is that now not only will they accept more people into the system, so their numbers, volume numbers will go up. Second is that their loss-making thing, the loss will be significantly reduced, admitting that they may be still at a loss vis-a-vis the private. So to that extent, I think that from the hospitals pack, all the super specialty hospitals, I wouldn't like to take specific names, but clearly because they can charge 15% higher and they are more in the urban cities where your rates are also higher. So I think super specialty hospitals would be the biggest beneficiaries from this. But I think that overall, this is a big positive move for the healthcare hospital sector, because people will also now look at these hospitals rather than a government person would look at it, at the last resort. Now he will say, okay, there is a chance that this hospital may accept me. So I expect an overall demand for this to grow up.
Right. Okay. Cyril, we'll let you go on that note. Thanks as always for your time. But Kinal, let's just revisit some of these names. Fortis, Max, Apollo, most of them at their all-time peak. How much further can they go?
Yeah, I think it's been phenomenal. The way Fortis, has moved over the last